Hi, I'm Meredith Bell, President and co-founder of Performance Support Systems, and I'm here today interviewing my good friend, Tony DeRico, founder and CEO of ProfitHunters International. Hey, Tony.
Hey Meredith, how are you?
I am great. And the first thing I want to ask you about today is, how did you come to form your company? What led you to do that? And go back in history, if you will, to tell us what led up to it.
I was on a plane going from Phoenix, Arizona to Dallas, Texas. I had been engaged in an employment agreement with a company. We had decided to part ways. They didn't want me to speak at a national conference and talk to them about the truth, and I refused to hide the truth. So needless to say, I was on a plane saying, I'm done with corporate America. I don't want to work there anymore. I spent from 16 years old to, 55, 50, whatever the heck I was. I said, I've had enough of this crap. I said, you know what I'm going to do? On the plane, I still got the business plan. I wrote it down. I got pages and pages and pages of stuff I was writing. I said, I'm going to take the skills I took in corporate America, which is to grow companies, grow people, come up with ideas, come up with concepts. Looking back, I've been so darn blessed. I've been in joint venture partners of Classic Sports Network, where we started a restaurant chain called Classic Sports Restaurant Bar and Grill, which after ESPN bought Classic Sports Network, shut it down. Now they have these things called ESPN Sports Bars. I wonder where that came from. And on my table back there, there's a football signed by Tom Landry from one of those events to Tony DeRico. That's me, buddy. And so I decided I was going to take my skills. I was going to be a gunslinger. Somebody called me a gunslinger one time. I was going to go in companies, broad and wide. And by the way, my initial thing is I stayed away from hotels. I didn't want anything to do with hotels. I was that burned out, having spent all those years traveling every single day. And I said, you know what? I'm going to just go out there. And the first person I called was William Winslow. You say, who's William Winslow? Well, he's a gentleman that passed last Tuesday. He started what's known as Winslow Research Institute. And they, in 1968, and it was a behavioral assessment company who actually started athletic industry. At that time, Dennis Waitley was one of the key authors. And Dennis Waitley was the psychologist that worked with, I think, 12 Olympic teams. Do you remember seeing the movie Miracle on Ice?
I don't think I ever saw that one.
Well, you need to see it.
Okay.
You know how I like movies. And in the movie, you would see the athletes that were selected, college kids that were selected to potentially be on the team. One of the first things they did is they asked them to take these personality tests, the Winslow Athletic Assessment System. So I called Winslow. You know why I called him? Because I used to be a client. I used to use the product. I said, well, hell, if I use it as a client, why wouldn't I sell it as a service? He said, Tony, love to have you. And don't tell nobody, he gave me a free license. And that was one of the first tools in my toolbox. And so what I did is my vision of Profit Hunters International was to bring in effective products and partnerships. So I developed relationships with people that I used to hire. For example, Tom Felsenstein, who created the Happy Meal, or was part of the team that created the Happy Meal, and the Ronald McDonald's, worked with Ray Kroc. I hired Tom in 1986 for a project. He's one of my partners. So I've created these experts, and I brought in these products with the goal to work with small and large companies, from independent pharmacies to healthcare, manufacturing companies. Hell, I got an aerospace company in Vancouver that's a client. And what we do is we help them. I look at myself kind of like a general practitioner. I use the term house. You ever see the show House? I'm a little quirky like houses. People come to me with problems. More often than not, the problem is, how do I hire good salespeople? How do I get my salespeople to perform better? That seems to be a very common term theme, because that's probably one of the most difficult things to do properly. And if you do it not quite well or not absolutely perfect, it really has an impact on your top line, your bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's such important. So they will come, we will show them what we got. We'll first ask them what problems they have. Where's their pain? For example, there's a company in Cleveland, Ohio. I don't think they'd mind me mentioning it. It's called Merit Brass. They came to me through a relationship with a joint venture partner, Dr. Rick Johnson, who was on the board, and they were trying to hire a salesperson, a regional salesperson for the Southeast. The local psychologist they used said this guy would not fit in the culture. Do not hire him. Rick, who knew what I did, said, I don't believe it. I think this guy is the right guy. He said, Tony, would you talk to Merritt? I said, love to. Talk to him. We tested the guy. It said this guy will be a superstar. They took the advice. They hired him. That was 10 years ago. The guy is one of the top performers in sales in the company. And the CFO talked to me later, but I said, you know what? I think this was our mistake. He said, the people that we had this person interact with have a Texas bias, which means we're Northerners, we're Cleveland, we're New York, we don't see the good old boy in Texas with his, accent being a great sales guy because he ain't, driving me dead like a New Yorker. He said, but you system said, and we said, hell, give it a shot. The guy is phenomenal. I wish all our people were that great. That has made them millions and millions and millions of dollars. And by the way, they use our assessment system for every position from the CEO down to the guy in one of their 5 distribution centers across America. Every position. It didn't start that way, but it trickled down.
Well, I'm not surprised when they had that sales position clearly is one they could measure in terms of return, but some of the other positions, when you look at the cost of turnover or turning customers away and the other negative things that can happen as consequences of hiring the wrong person, it's a very small investment with a huge return, it seems like.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, one of the things I tell clients, because you talk turnover. Turnover is a huge problem. Most people don't know how much it costs them. I advise clients they should add a P&L line. Employee turnover cost. You want to get the attention of everybody in your company, put it on the P&L line. You put a number in there, and if it's $1 million a year, I guarantee you someone's going to pay attention to that number. Or if you're a small one-store business and it says $100,000 a year, somebody's going to say, we're going to fix that problem.
Tony, are there particular industries that you work in, or is it more across the board?
We're really across the board. Any industry that depends on people. If you got people, we got solutions. So we are got a small pharmacy that's got 10 employees. We've got, wholesale distributors that have 30 locations throughout the United States. I do business internationally. Master franchisee in England for Subway Corporation. So we're pretty well, most of our concentration is North America, healthcare, restaurant industry, automobile dealers, franchisors and franchisees. I have Oxford Learning in Quebec uses our services with their franchisees. Just off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I think it helps the people listening to get a sense of, would this apply to me? What would you say? I mean, you've mentioned some of them already, some of the key benefits of using a tool like this, but just kind of summarize it here as we close. What are the key reasons that somebody should contact you about considering the Winslow assessment for hiring?
Yeah, and it's not just the Winslow assessment for hiring, it's the other things that we bring to the table, like your product, or e-learning, or sales training services we have. So it's a bundle, but the blood test is what drives it. And I kind of like to talk about it analogous to doctors. And my assessment is the equivalent of blood test. It diagnoses the health of the individual patients, and then when you look at the organization collectively, the health of the organization. And even if you're a healthy company, Do you not go to the doctor once a year? Do you not get a blood test and a workup to say, here's where you are? And at that point, you've got to maintain that level. But most of the people that come to us are feeling some sort of pain. And so if it's got to do with, if you want to increase your sales and your profitability, you want to reduce the hassle of employee turnover, if you want to reduce the hassle of customers not being tended properly, because if you've got employees that are not nurturing, are not conscientious, are not coachable, I guarantee you got a customer problem. And today's customers are so much more impactful. It's kind of like, I would tell you, we're gone through a whole cycle. In the 50s and 60s, most businesses were local. You had to take care of your customers, because if you didn't, you ran out of business because you're local trading mirror. Globalization and nationalization with the Walmarts of the world, they didn't care. They didn't care about that one employee or the one customer in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, or the one in DC. It didn't matter. It has changed. The internet has changed that. Look what happened in United with one customer. The voice of a customer today is getting louder and louder and louder. So if you're not taking absolute care of every customer properly, that one customer that your bad employee screws over, they can have a megaphone that will blast around the world and will go viral, and potentially you'll lose hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, but millions of dollars.
Well, that's a great point. And I think it also emphasizes the fact that investing in an assessment like this is truly an investment, not an expense, because of what it can save them over the long term with turnover, or lowering their turnover, as well as having customers who delight in the experience they get to have with that company. In essence, you're helping them hire more superstars for their company, so that the level of performance is raised, because now everybody is coming in at a higher level, and they are able to see a real difference in the performance of each person.
Yeah, we actually have them hire the raw talent to be a superstar, because see, we tell them, you don't just hire and then forget about it. You hire the talent, you train the talent, then you got to coach them. Football is probably the purest example of an ideal business model. Think about the New England Patriots. They drafted Tom Brady, 6th round, 199th player. I think seven quarterbacks before him. They trained him, coached him. Today, when he's on that field, there are 16 coaches on the New England Patriots. He's got a head coach, he's got a quarterback coach. Every time he goes to the sideline, you'll see him sit down. Who sits right by him? His quarterback coach. He's coaching him right there and right then. If you ran your businesses like that, you would be the equivalent of world class. You would be a Disney. You would be a Coca-Cola. You'd be an Apple. You'd be a Google, because they do it. Most companies don't do it. And I would say, just do it.
So, Tony, where can people find you if they'd like to learn more about the Winslow assessment?
You want my address? No. You can go to a couple of places. You can go to LinkedIn, where I'm on there as Tony Dorico. That's TonyDirico. Find me, connect with me. You have links to my company's websites, or two websites, ProfitHunters. That's easy to remember, right? Profit with the money, ProfitHunters. We're going to have to splice this in.
Yes.
ProfitHunters with an S .biz or .com. They both get you the same place. And my assessment center is HR, wonder what that stands for, Winslow Reports with an S.com.
Great. All right, Tony, thank you. And I bet you'll be hearing from some folks, especially those that are interested in growing their profits the way you help them do that.
Thank you. I look forward to helping them all.